Right, good morning. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. If we may, I think we should start. Great to see you all here in the beautiful city of Tallinn. It's my great pleasure as president of the IAA to welcome you here to our meetings in Tallinn. This meeting, I always think, is a particularly important meeting because this is when we set the tone for what it is we're focusing on, our priorities and our discussions. And it's a good chance for us to update you on some of the key things that we're focused on as an IAA. And we've got a number of excellent speakers who will join me at various stages this morning. Some online, so we hope the connections work, but I'm sure they will. Yeah, so it's not working. It's a good start. Have I got to point it at somebody? Yeah, that's right. Okay, so quick introductions to some of your hosts for today. Myself, Bezena as president-elect, Micheline as our past president, and Mathieu as our executive director. This was the agenda we had in Seoul. I just wanted to reflect back on the town hall we had in Seoul, which was, we titled Looking to the Future. And I set out some of the priorities that I hoped to focus on in my year as president, particularly around artificial intelligence, ensuring that we as actuaries embrace the opportunity that AI presents. But I also had two other priorities that I've been trying to push forward this year. One is around supporting the global growth of the profession, and the other one is around how we better interact with individual actuaries and support individual actuaries around the world as the IAA, particularly through our sections. So more on that later. But this is our agenda for today. So in Seoul, we were looking to the future. I want to talk a little bit more about how we're planning for the future. So we're going to have very shortly some presentations on what we've been doing around AI. It won't surprise you that that will be a key feature of many of our discussions here in Tallinn. I'm trying to ensure that we mix and match it a little so that you don't get the same presentation multiple times. So I'm saving Peter, who's our excellent chair of our AI task force, to present to the SPC and council. So we're going to be looking in just a minute at one of the more exciting work, well, they're all exciting work streams, but the work stream that's looking at the future and innovation. So we will do some focus around that. And then we're going to talk about how professional development is so important to us as actuaries, not least because we need to keep learning about the new technology. And then we're also going to have a session on diversity. There is a lot of change coming. AI is going to mean so much of what we do changes, and we're going to have to change. And understanding diversity of mindset and being open to change is going to be increasingly important for us. So that's going to be our third key presentation. And then I'm going to just talk a little bit about what we're doing in the area of the sections and also around advice and assistance. So that's our plan for today. But before we go into any of that, and perhaps as a demonstration of of how AI is changing our lives. I've asked Christian to come up and demonstrate some of the new technology which we are going to be using in our meetings, which is really quite exciting. So Christian, come on up and yeah, show us what new toys you've got for us.
Well, and I'll invite Carolyn as well. She's going to come up and help me on one of those points. So hopefully, yes, see, it works for me. I got the magic fingers. So I'm going to talk about a little bit as well of some of the improvements that are coming with the IA's IT systems. So about 6 weeks ago, Carolyn and I have been working, well, for more than that. It's been 3 or 4 months. But about 6 weeks ago now, we've started our plan for the improvements of our customer relationship management system. So essentially our database, as well as our content management system, which is essentially our website as well. So we're going to be working on that over the next 6 months together with a completely new system, not an upgrade to what we currently have. So that's hopefully going to improve your experiences using the IA website, but also all of the systems that sort of interact together as well. We'll have also a new event management system. So again, it's not going to be a built-in system that we already have included with the system we use, but Anne will be using something for new event management, and it'll also incorporate event for webinars and things like that. So that'll impact as well as registrations for section webinars and things like that as well. So that's coming along as well. And I'll just briefly mention as well this, so what we've gone with in this new system, it's essentially a hub and spoke system. So it has a very good CRM, but it will use tools that are outside that are the best in class so that we can incorporate all of those things within the main system. And everything will talk together as well. And eventually even our accounting system as well. Metzger is happy about that. And these are not, well, I mean, these are systems that we utilize, but they're not necessarily our tools. But within Zoom and YouTube, you may have seen that already before. The Zoom features, we enabled that a couple months ago. We upgraded our system. So now you can enable, you had closed captions before that were available in English. So when somebody was speaking, you would get a 90% good closed captions of what somebody was saying. But now we have interpretation in different languages that can be enabled. So now what we do is when at the start of a webinar, we can tell the viewers that they can start the interpretation, and then they can select which language that they would prefer to see those captioned in. And that's a feature as well. Like, so all of our videos the recordings that we get from our Zoom meetings, the section webinars and things like that, they all end up going on YouTube. You have that feature as well on YouTube where you can set those settings as well. So it's a way of you sharing the information with your members and then, broadening that inclusion for them to listen in whatever language is easier for them. Yeah, I should have done that. So that's a little bit, does this work? Yeah, a little bit. Okay. So yeah, at the bottom of your screen in Zoom, there's a little captions options. Maybe I should do it somewhere else. I don't know. It's probably easier on that screen. Yeah, so you have a little CC options at the bottom of your screen. When you toggle that on, you can click the little translation button and it gives you a long list here of all the languages that are available. So hopefully Zoom and YouTube and all those systems, they have a lot more money than we do. They'll obviously be able to improve the AI translations for the languages that are being spoken about. And I'll hand over to Carolyn, which is a brand new system that we're going to talk about now.
Okay, so I'm going to ask the technician to switch the feed 1 second so you can see this system in action. So we've decided to incorporate Wordly in our, we're actually testing it at these meetings. We did a test with the executive committee yesterday and I think it went well. So we're going to try. Basically what this does is that it will give you audio translation. Now, if you want to try it, I would ask that you put your headsets on with your phone, and you can try the QR code. Now, if my technician, oh, it started, perfect. We need to select the right audio. Okay, and hopefully it will pick up what I am saying. So when you go in, you can select your own language, or if you want to try to learn Estonian, you can select Estonian as well. What is good is that like I said, you have the audio, and that's a great plus, because then you can look at the presenter, you can look at the PowerPoint, and you do not have to read. You can just listen in. Now, there is a bit of a delay. It can be a few seconds. You will notice that I'm talking and I'm stopping, and then I'm continuing. I'm doing it on purpose, because the system picks up that I'm finishing my sentence and it will translate. So when you see the text, when it goes up, Mathieu's laughing, he's hearing a man's voice in French for me now. So, so everything that has gone up has already been translated, but when it's at the very bottom, the very first box, AI is still running through it. So you might see words still changing in there, because there are languages that the sentences are in complete different order. So the system is reviewing and checking, and then when it thinks it has the correct meaning, it pushes it up, and then it goes to translation. It can go up to about 10 seconds of a delay, so we have to keep that in mind. And us internally, we already know that we will have to change a little bit the way that we do our meetings, so that people that are listening in know that the person speaking has changed, because they always hear the same voice. So a next person coming on, if Christian was coming back on, he would say Christian Levac, and then he would just go on. So that's when we'll be working through this. Another feature that we will be developing, and you have to I don't know, be lenient on us at this time, is that there's a glossary. There are actually 3 types of glossaries. I will skip through the details, but basically we can feed in words. So I've already inputted an acronyms, and so that it picks it up correctly and it translated. So for example, I've inputted Mathieu's name. I don't know if it's going to do Mathieu Langelier. It should pick it up. See, it wrote it correctly. But then if I do Caroline Desilets, I have no clue what it's going to do. Oh, it didn't pick up my last name. Usually it's Désolé, and I'm very sorry. Being a Canadian, it's supposed to be okay, but I prefer my actual last. So I hope that you are trying it. We will leave it on for the rest of Town Hall. We will remove it from the screen so it's not too disruptive for the rest of the presentations. But have fun, enjoy, and we'll be looking forward to having your comments on the experience, and we'll be improving it as the months go by.
We'll have it, and we'll have this activated. Okay.
Would there be a hotline for all these new items?
A hotline?
Yes.
To give suggestions?
If I don't understand, because I'm so stupid. Helpline.
My hotline is
You phone Christian.
No, not yet. We don't have that.
Oh, really? So thank you very much, Christian and Caroline. The really exciting thing about this technology is that it means that anybody can listen to any of our meetings and understand what's being said. Not only that, but people will be able to contribute if they wish in their own languages. And it'll get better at recognizing the changes of language during meetings. It'll take a little while for us to get used to it, and for our meetings to get used to it. But we're hoping that we will start to use this in many of our meetings. So this is the first time we've been trying it out. So we tried it out at the EC yesterday, and we're going to try it out throughout our meetings here in Tallinn. And we would very much welcome your feedback. It should have every major language of everybody here in this room, and most of our IAA association members. I'm not 100% certain it's got absolutely everybody, but it has a very large number of languages. So over 50. So those countries where there is nervousness about engaging and participating in our meetings, we will now be able to get full participation in our meetings. We may need to manage how we do that interaction, but I think it's really exciting for us as an international association. So that was the first thing that I wanted to introduce. Gabor. Of course.
I sent a suggestion to the officer that I would like to share with this community now, that perhaps the IAA try another AI-assisted feature, which is under Microsoft, it's called Copilot. And what it does, it provides a summary of the content of the meeting. And if you use that, you can save a huge amount of time of those who provide the minutes. I've been doing it in my own company. There may be a few people in the room who enjoy the minutes I send to an iPad 17 working group in my company, which I'm chairing, and I'm using this Copilot to produce the minutes. I need to review.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So I've been using Copilot, and this is incredibly efficient feature. It produces a summary. I need to review. I need to change, but the time I spend on finalizing the minutes is a fraction of what it used to be before using Copilot. So my suggestion is that the IAA examines the opportunity. I'm sure under Zoom, a similar feature is available, and it's it could also be a good achievement, because it could save cost or free up some time of the secretariat to spend on other important tasks. So this is a suggestion. Next time, maybe next meetings, for the next meetings, a summary could be produced using AI, this AI feature. Thank you.
No, thank you, Gabor. And we heard your suggestion, and we are looking at it. There are many tools out there, and we're going to hear a little bit more in a minute. And I completely agree that as actuaries, not just as actuaries, but as people in society today, if we're not using these new tools all the time in our lives, in our daily lives, we will get left behind by people who do. It's absolutely incumbent on all of us to understand this technology and to use it all the time. So on that note, I'm going to invite Jill onto the stage to talk a little bit about what we're doing in the innovation and future actuary space. Jill.
Thank you, Charles. I actually have no speech because we have prepared a video for you. So if we could please have that, and the volume when you've done the test has been really loud. So maybe just watch that. Oh, I'm supposed to click it. Click it to win it.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to AI Task Force tonight. We'll bring you the latest updates on how the IAA is leading actuaries around the world on AI adoption. I am Jing Wang.
And I'm Tim Bishop, your co-host and fellow AI enthusiast. Since the April summit, we've had some exciting developments in the AI Task Force Innovation Working Stream. But before we dive into that, let's talk about the great work that you've been doing, Jing, to generate awareness of the task force. You've been busy.
Yes, well, busy doesn't even cover it. Remember when we Singapore together, I had this idea to create a podcast? Well, I acted on it. It is called Deep Waiting with Jing Lang. In my season 1, several of my guests are actuaries in the AI space.
That's fantastic. And who did you get?
Well, Charles Collin, for one, our esteemed IAA president. Dave Dillon, he is a newly minted SOA president-elect. And Lara Wagner, who is an avid IAA and SOA volunteer that are very influential in the AI space. Not to give away too much, I have an amazing lineup for season 2 as well, and that will drop in October.
Fantastic. So, and I understand you've also been featuring some AI task force members in articles you've been producing for actuarial publications.
That's right, yes. So Tim, you will know because you're part of that collaboration. There were a number of articles written for a variety of actuarial publications showcasing the CIA and SOA delegates at the summit. I enjoy showcasing people who are doing amazing things. And it's been really cool to be able to showcase what the AI task force has been up to as well.
It was a lot of fun working on that with you. I particularly like the AI generated photos that we recreated. It was a lot of fun. I encourage people to check it out. Speaking of a slightly different topic, I heard you acquired the web address aiforactuaries.org. Is that right?
That is right, yes. So I had this idea when we were in Singapore together when it came out with the hashtag, but I didn't actually acquire it until I was listening into Jill and Peter's update in Korea. I was just on the GoDaddy website and I thought, give it a try, and it was available. I'm astounded that it is available, aiforactuaries.org. So I just grabbed it for us. I figured if we don't use it, it will be a cool thing to have. But if we do use it, it's totally on brand with IAA's actuaries.org website too. I thought it doesn't hurt one bit for us to lay our claim on it.
No, not one bit. And we want this to be the cornerstone of an online brand, right? So we're already using successfully using a hashtag AI for Actuaries, and the AIers have been using this on LinkedIn and other platforms to raise awareness for the task force efforts. Using aiforactuaries.org, we could create this brand to make that the location for actuaries to look for references and discussion around AI for actuaries. Is that right?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
We've been working hard on finding the best online platform to bring people together, haven't we?
Well, we certainly have. I've been working quite actively with the innovation team, and we've been evaluating a number of tools we could use to host an online community related to AI for actuaries. So we've concluded our initial work. We've produced a business case and a proposal for the EC to review in the Tallinn meetings, and we're really excited to move forward with this initiative.
That's great. So let's go live to our correspondent, Robert E. Up to you, Robert.
Hey, Jing. Hey, Tim. Florida is heating up, literally and figuratively. Our online strategy is to create a one-stop shop, easy to use place to distribute AI task force output and to support global actuarial AI discussion and collaboration. Using the hashtag AI for Actuaries to bring awareness on platforms like LinkedIn and combining with website at aiforactuary.org as a global resource, we've got a powerful way to bring actuaries and other professionals together in one place on this topic.
So Robert, will this be used by all the AI task force work?
You bet. And this resource with its online discussion site will keep contributing to our objectives in the future after the task force is done.
That's fantastic, Robert. I can't wait to start using this new online tool and the resources, and I particularly am really interested in looking forward to engaging on the discussion forums.
Yeah, that's great stuff, Robert. Keep us posted as this evolves. Now, let's turn to one of the exciting ideas we've been working on, using competition to spark innovation in AI.
Well, Jing, member organizations and other actuarial organizations have already been hosting very successfully competitions related to pricing or data science type competitions. We're looking to partner with those organizations to develop AI specific type competitions related to AI for actuaries.
Wow, that sounds amazing. There must be existing platforms out there, right? Hosting competitions?
Oh, absolutely. One of the leaders is Kaggle.com, which is a not-for-profit, by the way. but Kaggle has made a virtual industry out of hosting data science hackathon type competitions. It's a massively popular site. Shorter term, we are looking to partner with sites like Kaggle to host data sets and actuarial AI type challenges, business problems that people can compete on within that type of platform. But longer term, we are looking to really target working with other actuarial organizations to do some really interesting work. You know, with enough experience, we could potentially start hosting and producing our own competitions as well. You know, we could even start considering offering prizes like, you know, free admission to the 2026 International Congress of Actuaries in Japan.
That would be amazing. That's one expensive conference. Would this be limited to actuaries, Tim?
No. And one of the key things we want to do is make this available to anyone and actually draw in non-actuarial competitors. If we want to foster innovation, what we want to do is to get, you know, really different viewpoints and different perspectives and different ways of attacking these problems. And all of these competitions, the solution answers are available after the fact, so everyone can learn from everyone else's innovative ideas.
Wow, that sounds amazing. I can't wait to hear more about what come out of this initiative. Wait, but before we go, there is one other task force I want to touch base with, and this is a Future Actuary Task Force. And for that, let's turn to our correspondent, Joe Hoffman, on the ground, who is currently in commute, but still reporting from Singapore. Joe, what can you tell us about the Future Actuary Task Force and how that ties into our work on AI?
That's right, Jing. You caught me mid-commute, but I'm always ready to talk task forces. The Future Actuary Task Force is all about preparing actuaries for tomorrow's challenges, and AI is a big part of it. The connection between the two, it's all in the marketing. Let me explain. AI is revolutionizing the way we assess risk, but how do we convince people, especially the more traditional parts of the industry, that AI is their friend and not their replacement? That's where the marketing comes in. The Future Actuary Task Force is focused on rebranding what it means to be an actuary in the AI age. We are more than just back office number crunchers. We're innovative problem solvers using AI to lead the future of the profession.
That's a great point, Joe. So AI's role isn't just operational, but also rethinking how we present ourselves to the world.
Exactly, Jing. It's a cultural shift. Actuaries have to be seen as forward thinkers and not just back office number crunchers. The future of the profession depends on how we market that message.
Love it, Joe. AI is not only transforming the work, but also how we're perceived. Thanks for reporting in, even from the road. Tim, Joe is right. AI is changing not only the tools we use, but also how we're seen as a profession. It is a total rebrand for actuaries.
Oh, exactly, Jing. And with everything that's happening around the world, from Florida to Singapore, it's clear that AI is shaping the future of our industry in ways that we couldn't have imagined even just a few years ago.
Couldn't agree more, Tim. Well, that's our show, folks. Thanks for tuning into AI Task Force tonight. Good night.
Good night, everyone.
So I think we can all agree that the people at The Daily Show and Stephen Colbert and all those type of shows, their jobs are secure and safe. So the future actuary is not necessarily that. You know, I really want to talk a little bit about the Innovation AI Task Force and then tying it to the Future Actuary Task Force as well. Like, as you can see, we've got like a really enthusiastic group of volunteers there who are really trying to do things in a different way. And I think when I posed the question about what is the future actuary and what does this mean for the IAA as well, these guys really embody it. And it's really nice to see the enthusiasm. And Peter said it well yesterday at EC. It's like, you know, this task force is like a bunch of horses just like at the start line, ready to be let go and to let out and start doing stuff. So with respect to the future actuary, I spoke at Seoul about, you know, supply and demand and how we can go about, you know, making the actuarial profession, you know, people more aware of it. So unfortunately, we're still a profession that people have to hear of. We're not known like an engineer, doctor, lawyer, those type of more globally recognized professions. So we are completing up the work on coming up with a handbook for FMAs to use, to be inspired by. They don't need to follow it, but to be inspired by about how they should be branding the actuaries on their website. So as mentioned before, the websites tend to be focused towards current members, which is fine. But if you are someone who is like, oh, well, my uncle or my neighbor over there is an actuary, what do they do? And go look on that website, they might find some resources, but also if you are at COP26 and what is an actuary and you go on the website, that might not be as clear as well. So we're coming up with basically inspiration to use for FMAs to be able to use to create when they're refreshing their websites. The other piece of work that we've done, and by we, I mean Amalie and the team, is creating short little videos, which then will, of course, be able to be translated to any language with the magic of YouTube translations about what is an actuary. So I'm looking at it from 4 different points of view, explaining it to a student, explaining it to a gatekeeper, so those adults in the student's life, explaining it how else could traditional employers use actuaries better. You know, there's always internal audit, but you know, other cooler roles than internal audit. So that's pretty low bar for coolness. And then also for the non-traditional actuaries as well. And this, again, you don't need to use them, but for some of the smaller FMAs, this might be nice to have links on their websites to these videos and just, you know, available in the public domain. So that's how we're hoping to close out the Future Actuary Task Force. And again, you know, continuing to work with AI innovation, because as Charles says, the actuary without AI is going to be replaced by the actuary who does use AI. So I will be taking autographs later on at the break for those who want. But thank you very much for your support, and I hope you enjoyed the presentation.
Thank you very much, Jill. So hopefully that gave you a flavor of some of the exciting things that are coming out of the innovation space. As well as that, of course, we've been producing a lot, or the AI task force and their various work streams have been producing huge amounts of material around professionalism, education, governance, to name but a few. And we will be sharing those with you, and Peter will be talking a little bit more about that at SPC and Council. But actually, picking up on Gabor's point, I wanted to show you, for those of you who missed the Actuaries Day webinar that we held earlier this month, Adam Driussi, who's an inspirational guy from Australia, who is an actuary who founded one of the largest data science companies in the world about 20 years ago, joined me, as well as Dorothy Andrews, a really excellent actuary from the US. And Adam talks about using AI for everything. And Dorothy talks about all the sorts of professional issues we need to think about. And if you haven't seen it, I highly recommend it. But I thought I'd just give you a little taste of it, because you'll get a flavor of those key themes that come through. So hopefully, if I press the right button, or you, is that going to?
I very much believe what Charles just said, that.
Oh, no.
I very much believe what Charles just said, that I think that not just actuaries, but executives more broadly. I made a comment at a conference recently where I said 30% of executives around the table today won't be around the same table in 2 years' time. And my view is that's because they will be replaced by similar executives who embrace AI more than they do. So I very much have the view that the AI-enhanced actuary isn't the future, it's already happening today. So if you're not embracing this stuff today, which I know not everyone will be, I would strongly encourage you to get curious and to do that pretty quickly. So I'll just give you some examples of what I'm talking about. So on the left-hand side of the slide here, I met with the CEO of an airline in Australasia the other week, and I asked him, I said, are you embracing AI personally in the way you do work? And he said, no, and at the airline we're doing things like transforming our call center and so on, but I'm not using it in my work. So I said, all right, give me a question that's a major strategic question for you. And his question was, okay, I'm worried of what I would do is that if our main competitor came into our market and started regularly flying to multiple ports in the United States. That's his big question. So, all right, so the tool I'm using here is Claude. So the prompt I wrote in Claude was, I'm the CEO of a major international airline based in Oceania. Write me a brilliant prompt to ask Claude to answer the question of what we should consider and do if our main competitor starts flying regularly to multiple ports in the United States. So rather than just ask the tool his question, I actually asked the tool to get it to write a better question. And so then on the right-hand side here, you'll now see the answer it gave me. So as actuaries, we are very familiar with the idea of continual learning. And I think AI is no different to that. There is nothing that will replace theory rather than just rolling up your sleeves and having a crack. So I would encourage you to embrace AI to supercharge the way you do your work every day. Best way you can do that is subscribe to a tool. You know, we're using Claude, but it could be any tool. And I would use it in the ways I talked about, whether it's a thought partner, a research assistant, content generator. Really think about how can you use it to support you in every single thing that you do.
It's become pretty clear to me that bias in data is the result of human activity. Whether the bias is statistical, historical, or systemic, or algorithmic, the bias observed in input data or outcome data can be tracked back to human activity. So this is the Cognitive Bias Codex, and it's a very useful tool for examining all the biases that are known to date. The biases are arranged in a circle and divided into 4 quadrants. Each quadrant is dedicated to a specific group of biases.
So that was just a brief flavor. I do encourage you to have a look at that webinar. Adam not only shows how you can use AI in your everyday life. So he took that question and that he got AI to write, he plugged it in live to the Claude tool, and it came up with an incredibly comprehensive answer. The sort of thing that would take consultants days or weeks to write. He got an answer in seconds. Now, that's not to say that that's a definitive, complete answer, but it gives you a massive step along the way. And if you're not doing that for everything in your lives, you're missing out and you're losing out to people who are. So do look at that. And then Dorothy gave some real powerful insights into some of the professional issues that we as actuaries have to be aware of when we're using AI. So all of this is part of the work that we've been encouraging this year. But at this point, I want to hand over. Henning's going to join us. Gabor, you want another? Have to be quick, but go on. Go on.
So quickly. So we've been talking about AI and the application. I think we should be talking as well about the professional judgment. These two cannot be separated for actuaries. So, and I'm quite glad the IA has been doing work on an IA and on professional judgment, but the AI task force and the task force that develops the professional judgment IA should be linking. And when we talk about the AI and the application, I think it's indispensable to think about the professional judgment, because if you don't do that, you will be lost as an actuary in using or applying AI. So it's very important, in my opinion, to combine the two threads. Thank you.
No, thank you, Gabor. And you're absolutely right. And it's a key focus for one of the working groups that's looking at exactly that point. So we will be producing work in exactly that area. But I'm now going to ask Jennifer and Bazena to join me on the stage, but it's actually Henning that's going to give us a presentation remotely about the importance of CPD and continual learning, which I will hope is pretty obvious from what we've just been talking about. And I hope the technology will allow us to access Henning. I'm looking at my technicians in the corner, hopefully. Do I have to press anything? Or is Henning going to magically appear? Ah!
Good morning. I hope so. Good to see and hear all of you. I hope it's the same the other way around. And as long as I do not hear the opposite, I will just start. Charles, you can hear me? Charles, can you hear me? Just continue to talk, and I very much hope you can hear me.
We can't hear you, Henning.
I continue to talk. I can hear you.
They can hear one. Why can't we hear him then?
I'll
Does
just
everybody
continue
have
to
join
talk.
online?
I'm here.
It's not without its occasional challenges, technology.
I'll just continue.
Ah, hey.
Good morning, everyone. Now it seems to work. Fantastic. Pleasure to see and hear all of you. And it's a pity that I can't join you in the beautiful city of Tallinn, but that's not your problem, it's my problem. So very happy to have the opportunity to talk to you a bit about CPD for actuaries. As the education committee, this lies within the scope of our work. And just to continue and really walk the solid bridge that was built the last couple of minutes, I would like to give you just a brief starting point from an education's point of view. Of course, we talk about our profession, and Charles mentioned that, of course, it's the task and his personal task to really enhance and bring the profession forward. And when we think about actuaries around the world, we, of course, and Gabor mentioned this, we have a professional responsibility. We need to do our jobs right, and those jobs are really, really important for society, and many people rely on that. We have, and this is nothing specific for our time, there have always been developments of technical methods. At the moment, it's AI, and it will be a significant change and has been, but there have always been changes in the past. Some have been dramatic, some have been very positive, some have been different, but nevertheless, we are a never developing profession. We talk about high qualification standards. We have the syllabus, we have the guidelines, we have a lot of local requirements to qualify actuaries. And we all know, and I think we can all agree on, it's not one step an actuary needs to take to be well equipped to do his job. And that's my last point, in very different jurisdictions. And that's not only the local requirements, the legal requirements we have, but also the environment actuaries work on. We have a lot of associations where the majority of the actuaries in working in non-life or different fields, or in the pensions area, or associations like mine, the DAB, representing actuaries from all of the different working fields. And that's something we have to keep in mind when talking about something very formal like continuous professional development, lifelong learning. So where do we start? I'll start with the internal regulation to bring it a bit to the core. That's apart from 2.2.2 membership criteria. A full member association must certify the following membership criteria. So to be part of the IAA, need to have a code of professional conduct. And just to make it even more obvious, an actuary shall perform professional services with integrity, skill, and care. That individual needs to be competent and appropriately experienced to do professional services. And the actuary needs to ensure that applicable practice standards are used. So if we have that in mind and also recall that we work in an ever-changing environment, it's rather obvious and straightforward. And I think every actuary around the world is doing so to keep his and her knowledge and skills up to date. So it's not something new that the IAA has been working on continuous professional development. There's a very good paper from 2011. And I do recall the very good group of people that back in the day had been working on the paper. And perhaps you should give it a read because it covers a lot of very specific tasks, from a definition, what CPD is, why it is helpful for the profession on a global level, on a local level, but also on an individual level, how learning can be done. So it just defines the whole scope of why actuaries should keep their knowledge and skills up to date, but it's on a non-mandatory level. So it just describes the opportunity and only says, well, there should be something in place, but it's not enforced. And just to give you, as you are, and I'm in Europe, I would like to just give you a brief glimpse of what other actuarial supranational organizations are doing. The AAE, the Actuarial Association of Europe. As you might know, the AAE has a mutual recognition agreement in place that's based on the freedom of movement within Europe. So an actuary that qualified in Estonia can move to Spain and will be a qualified actuary there as well, because we have a mutual recognition agreement in place. This is, of course, based on a set of minimum requirements for additional qualification for the entry qualification, but it also includes the need to have a CPD scheme in place. So every local association needs to have requirements on CPD in place. It needs to be monitored. It needs to be written down and documented what every actuary does. On the other hand, the AAE also supports its member association and the individual actuaries. So just recently, the AAE published a paper, CPD in data science, really linked to what we have been talking about with regard to AI, just describing what someone could do to really upskill in the area of data science. And we make a clear link to initial education, just to help an individual to place him or herself. Do I have some knowledge? Do I have no knowledge? Am I rather an expert in this area and can choose from some specific topics? And last but not least, from the office side, the AAE regularly offers webinars for free for its member associations and their members to join, and also grants free access to ActiveView, just to really lower the hurdle for every individual actuary to say, where do I find up-to-date knowledge? Where can I upskill myself? So what are we doing within the education committee? And I'm very happy to hand over to Jennifer that is on site later on, as she's leading the task force. We would like to strengthen the importance of lifelong learning and CPD for actuaries by linking CPD, a CPD scheme, mandatory CPD to membership requirement. Of course, we will start with the 2011 paper because it already includes a lot of very relevant aspects. We think it does make a lot of sense to make the CPD requirements stronger, to especially show the outside world and our external stakeholders that we are a learning and up-to-date profession with our skills and knowledge. We will, of course, consider the diversity within the IAA, from very large to smaller associations, that this is, of course, well respected within such a mandatory requirement setup. And therefore, we will ask you, the member associations, to give us the information where you are right now, what kind of support or things you would need to implement this. And I'm very happy to hand over to you guys on the stage to lead the discussion. I'm here, and I'm very happy that this was picked for Town Hall, because I really think it's a very important topic and will help the profession to further develop in the next couple of years. Thank you very much.
Right. Thank you very much, Henning. I'm just we haven't got time for a lot of discussion, but Jennifer, if you could just give us a quick flavor of what the task force is focusing on, and Bożena, your reflection on the importance of CPD going forward. So Jennifer.
Sure, thank you. So we have a lot of information from the AAE's work and from the work that the IAA did a number of years ago, and we don't really want to repeat that in our survey. So we're trying to make it easier for everybody to respond, so we get a more complete response. And I think we should actually consider working with Jill's team as well, that some of it may be, how do we help convince actuaries that they need to be paying attention to CPD? So there may be some marketing involved in order to be successful.
So building on what Henning was saying, many associations already have mandatory CPD requirements. Many professions around the world also have mandatory CPD requirements. The IAA is an outlier in the fact that it doesn't, and I would think that people would assume that the IAA already has mandatory CPD requirements. So this is absolutely something that we are looking at. And I'm really interested in your views right now, whether this is something that you support with when I was talking with someone yesterday, they said, oh, don't we already have that? And it was like, no, people just assume that we already do. We don't actually have a mandatory CPD requirement. So please, if you would like to contribute, say whether you support the IAA going in this direction, whether you have any objections to it. It'd be great to have that kind of input, because what we have done is we've tasked the Education Committee with going and looking at this and saying, do we have support, and then how it would look like from a practical point of view. So yeah, keen for any feedback if you'd like to say.
But sadly, we haven't got much time. Sorry.
I was just going to say, I made it really easy for you to find me if you want to give feedback.
So I will allow one comment and one comment only, but after that, go find Jennifer. But Peter, please, a brief comment.
Just a very brief comment. There are two fundamental directions in CPD. One is inputs-based, count the hours. The other one is output-based, and they don't necessarily align with each other. Output-based being counting what actually changed in terms of what you've done.
No, absolutely. And that's something we have pointed out to the Education Committee. They're well aware of that fact, and they will take that into account, whatever recommendations they come up with.
Okay, so you'll be hearing a lot more on this going forward, and I'm sorry I have to cut that discussion short, but thank you for the work, Jennifer, that you and the team are doing, and I know Bożena will be carrying this forward in her year next year, and thank you to Henning for leading a lot of this work within the Education Committee.
Thank you.
Okay, so from the subject of how important it is that we continue to develop and learn, I'm now going to ask Kirsten again to talk to us remotely, and hopefully the link will work quickly. And I'm also going to ask Marika to join us on stage to talk about how important it is that we as actuaries are ready for change, how we as actuaries embrace diversity of mindset, and we as actuaries are open to other views and other opinions.
So welcome from my side. Beautiful city of Tallinn, I hope embrace you. And as a local host, I was given a privilege to spend some time on this stage today, but I'm here only to support and moderate the next session, and actually to introduce Kirsten a bit and kick off the session of hers. So you all, I assume, know Kirsten is a passionate actuarial professional from the past, but I think that the international actuarial community actually knows her as a passionate diversity advocate as well. So what makes it interesting that Kirsten's approach to diversity is non-traditional, and it looks far more beyond the traditionally formulated diversity topics. So Kirsten.
Yeah,
Are you
can you hear me? Are you able to hear me?
Yeah.
No?
So I'm curious actually to know. So maybe you can answer that before you go to your presentation briefly. We are out of time, of course, as usually. So what made you change your path from being an actuary to become a diversity advocate?
Yeah, so you can hear me, right? Yeah. So I've worked as a manager in many parts of the industry for many years, and for a long time I felt like I didn't really understand the rules, that I didn't fit in, and people always told me to be something else and be more like the other guy to have great career opportunities, but so I never felt like it was okay to be me. And I think one of the things I did was I asked a lot of challenging questions. So I would always look for the logic in the way we did things, and sometimes people were just wanting to do it fast, and sometimes they didn't even have the answer, because the answer was, we're just doing it because that's how we used to do it. So I was just always curious to bring in other perspectives, but I felt like people were not really open to that. And so as I've grown older, I stopped feeling like I didn't fit in or that I was wrong. So now I've decided instead that I was ahead of my time. It feels better. So now I've decided that I think our profession in general could benefit from being more open to other perspectives, and at least open to discussing how other people maybe see things, and then also broadening our own view of the world by doing so. So that's why I'm keen on this topic. And I don't know who is changing my slides. Is Christian doing that on site, or? Yeah. So as Marika said, I'm trying to move away from talking about gender and age and ethnicity, which are the things that we normally think about when we hear the word diversity. And I think there are too many feelings in that, and we move away from constructive discussions. Instead, I want to talk about how diverse thinking and diverse backgrounds and interdisciplinary collaboration will be an advantage in the future. So I've just been to the JOCO in Brussels, and also I've just heard all of the presentations here, and it's very clear that things are changing. So I think this could be really a strategic, an important asset for the profession to embrace diversity. And this is, of course, a bit provocative quote, but I still think it's right. I mean, if everyone agrees all the time, there's no challenge and there's no involvement. And it's easy to surround yourself with people who think like you think, and it makes you feel clever, and it's comfortable, but it's not always the optimal solution when you want to keep up to speed with the developments and adapt. So as I said, we can all agree that changes are coming, and they're coming fast. So now we're talking about AI, but nobody really knows what the topic will be next year. Some big new change will probably occur soon. And of course, we need to look into new tools and new skills. But I think one skill that we also really need to focus on is our ability to adapt when changes are coming, because they're coming fast and there are many of them. And I think it's important to also spend some time on developing our mindsets, so we are more adaptable and have an easier time adapting whenever these changes are coming. So this is a Chinese proverb that I really like. So you can always just try to keep change out, but if you want to keep up to speed, you need to actually build your windmills. And I think developing our mindset could be one of the windmills that we need to bring the actuarial profession into the future. So as I said, I've just been at the JOCO, and there were lots of great presentations. Many of them were on how we can fine-tune our existing skill sets to learn more about what we already do. But I think there's only so much we can do with fine-tuning. We also have to move beyond what we already know. So that's why I think we should embrace diversity in a different way and try to create an environment where we are open to perspectives from other professions and other skill sets as well.
But Kirsten, if I may,
yeah.
So do you think that these diversity trainings should be compulsory for actuaries nowadays, or?
Yeah, actually, I was thinking that when Henning was talking before about CPD. I think in Denmark we have mandatory CPD, but it's very focused on technical skills. So there is a possibility to input some softer skills CPDs, but it's always considered not as important, and it doesn't count as much. So I think I really think that developing this mindset. So I'm not thinking that diversity training in the traditional sense, like bias blocking, and that's also important. But what I'm thinking is that we need to teach people how to create cultures that actually allows diversity to flourish. So I also like this quote, of course, from a very clever guy. So he was also aware that change is something you need to be able to do. So next, please. Yeah. So I can't go into all of these details, but I really recommend this book, Rebel Ideas, because it explains how diverse teams outperform more homogeneous teams. So you would think that if you had 10 really bright people and you ask them to come up with 10 great ideas, you would think you get 100 great ideas. But that's actually not the case if you look at the first figure, because if you have 10 very clever people who all think the same way and they come up with 10 great ideas, you may have maybe 12 or 15 ideas. But if you have people with different perspectives and different skill sets, they will actually come up with a lot more great ideas than the ones that all look the same. So yeah, I argue that strength lies in differences and not in similarities. But it's not the right solution is not just to hire diverse talent. So that's also why I'm pushing this agenda at the moment. In the EU, we have lots of legislation coming on the diversity you can count. So you need quotas, you need more women in leadership positions, and that is all very great. But if you don't have a culture that embraces diversity, then they will end up feeling like I've felt my whole career. I've always felt like I was just tolerated and not actually celebrated for challenging the system or asking questions or trying to see if we could do things in a better way. And I think I was never clever enough to just shut up and have my great career opportunities. But I think a lot of people are, and they just stop bringing their perspectives and try to fit in, because that's human nature, and you lose a lot of great perspectives that way. So, yeah.
Any concrete ideas how we get started?
Yeah, so one of the things you could do is that traditionally you would always hire people for a predetermined position. So you would have like special requirements for this, you know, a pricing actuary. You would have a very specific skill set you want them to have, and you would also measure their success according to this fixed profile. So I think instead we should try to look at the individual employees we have, and then organize the work not according to these fixed processes, but instead look at the unique individuals and see if you can have them work on different topics and on the maybe on the border of their skill sets more. So and that's also a way to stop the silo work within companies, and actually, because you may have, like in my last job, I had great actuaries who were actually interested in working together with the communications people to communicate with the members. So that made really great collaboration. So instead of trying to fit people into boxes and actually reward them for being like the person in the same position before them, you should instead celebrate when they actually do something different. So I'm thinking if you know, many companies see diversity as a problem they need to solve. They need to hire more diversity to fulfill some rule sets, or, you know, people push for diversity. But instead, if you see it as something that can actually help you be a better company and even make you more profitable, if you embrace it as a professional strength, I think you should do that instead. So, and then I think on the next one, we have a small exercise, and I can't see the room, but in fact, it's not so important, because the most important part of this one is that you see each other. And that's also part of what I'm working on, is diversity leadership. And then it's about seeing people and seeing beyond the surface. So it's just a small reflection exercise. So if you feel like the statement applies to you, just raise your hand. So does your current role differ from your original professional background? And have you
so many?
And have you worked in more than one professional discipline? And did you ever experience thinking differently from your colleagues? For instance, more analytical, more creative, more visual?
I'm just giving you a feedback, so
Yeah.
all those statements are true for the audience.
Yeah, you see? And also the last one, have you ever experienced being misunderstood due to your communication style, especially in a cross-cultural context? So next slide, please. Yeah. So the purpose of this was just to say, you know, look around the room, think about you know, you are all there because you are actuaries, and you would think that everyone was the same. But in fact, if you're interested in more than just the surface of people, you'll see that everyone is unique. So diversity is not about gender or ethnicity or age. Even like if you just have two people in a room, you have a lot of diversity if you just care to look under the surface. And I'm thinking that we can leverage this diversity to improve problem solving and collaboration. Could it also be a greater, could it help us get a greater understanding of the cultural differences, and maybe help us work more effectively and cooperate better? And there could also be perspectives that you might be missing out on if you don't allow this diversity to flourish. So my point is, we don't see things as they are, we see them as we are. And I also believe that Socrates, the old philosopher from Greek, was quoted for saying something like, "Clever is he who knows what he doesn't know." So I think people should just be, in general, be more curious. And when I did my presentation at the JOCO, after me were some software guys that also challenged the way we develop software. And they said, actuaries tend to start out with believing we can spec everything up front and then just work according to plan. But they were suggesting to start with actually assuming that we are wrong. And I think we could maybe benefit from that in a lot of situations, just to start out with thinking that we don't know everything, and maybe other perspectives could be relevant and help us get a broader vision.
Thank you, Kristen, for sharing your thoughts.
So I think I've covered most of it now, and yeah.
Thank you very much, Kirsten. Thank you, Marika, for helping. I'll allow one question from Lisa. Sorry. There will be so much more that we need to. Actually, no, go. I'll have a couple, because this is important.
Thank you very much, Christian, and thank you very much, Marika. That was a really interesting session. I also strongly agree that diversity of thought is I think, key in changing or expanding and making more welcome the organizational culture within the IAA. I think we have to look towards, instead of focusing on the word diversity, also focusing on the word inclusion.
Yeah.
Because we have persons, we're a diverse organization. We may all look differently. We may all look the same in some ways, but we all come from different cultural backgrounds. So inherent in any grouping within the room, any subgroup, there is diversity. So what I think we as an IAA have to look at as well is the concept of inclusion, which is why I think in some ways we, in our workshop that we had in May, focused on the concept of allyship. Because it is only if we as individuals partly take the responsibility to change our view and the way we look at other people, and to help bring along other newcomers into the group, or persons who may not feel as included in the group, can we then have a place where we can all feel that we can be our true selves and contribute as meaningfully as we want to the IAA. So I think diversity is important. I think looking at the demographic characteristics of diversity is important. I know the nominations committee has been looking at that aspect of things, but I think we also have to recognize that the group of volunteers we have is the group of volunteers we have. So let's look at the inherent diversity within our groups through our cultural differences, and focus also on the concept of inclusion, and trying to ensure, I hope I'm not speaking too quickly because I have that tendency, and try to focus very much on having people feel more involved and included in meetings, where we can signal to persons who are on our committees and forums who do not participate as actively, signal to them a day or two before the meeting, I would like you to make a contribution. So make them feel more included and involved so that they participate more openly in the meetings as well. So I think there are lots of little steps that we can take to really have a more widespread participation within our meetings and have more of our volunteers feel more actively engaged. Thanks.
Thank you, Lisa.
Very well put. I couldn't agree more. So diversity is like on the surface. Inclusion is the process you want to actually achieve psychological safety in the end, so people can be their authentic self. That is the ultimate goal. Couldn't agree more.
Last comment. Sorry.
Ernst Visser from the Netherlands. I have a question to Kirsten.
Yeah.
I'm enthusiastic about your defense for more diversity and also equity and inclusion. However, my question is, where should we pay attention to it? Is that within our companies or to actuaries? Because within companies, we need more colleagues in many cases, and it's not that difficult to convince your colleagues that, other cultures should feel welcome. It's directly in our interest. But if you look at what's happening in politics, there is a lot of headwind. And I'm wondering how diverse or how robust all these approaches are currently, because sometimes you see that when there is headwind, because when a company faces a lawsuit because they are too diverse, then the executive board is saying, well, we didn't mean it, blah, blah, blah. They draw back. So should we somehow connect to society and make this approach even more robust?
Yeah. Well, in my current work, I actually don't work a lot with actuaries. I work with leaders in general from different professions, and I agree a lot. And that's also why I'm talking, when I'm teaching diversity leadership, which is not about labeling people or doing like initiatives. For instance, if you do initiatives for more women in leadership position, you've already said that these women, you need to, if you do like a network for them, it's because they need to change to fit in. What we need is the opposite, right? So we should stop putting labels on people and stop categorizing and just saying everyone is unique. And we need to create cultures that embrace all of that, not just genders or ethnicity or anything like that. So I'm thinking that you can take the politics out of it by just saying that it's actually page 1 of the good leadership book, right? Just see the individual in front of you and give them the best opportunities to succeed.
Okay, I'm afraid we'll have to call that discussion to a halt because time presses on, but I hope you got a good flavor there of why diversity is so important. And as we, as a profession, like other professions, are changing and potentially changing dramatically, the importance of not only continuing to learn, but being adaptable to change and recognizing diversity of view and responding and being open to diversity is absolutely going to be core to our successful future. And within the IAA, and you'll hear more about it from Roseanne and others, that is what we are trying to achieve. So I just want to say a few words because I promised I would, and I will keep this short, and I promise I will finish on time. But I did want to say a couple of things about a couple of other areas where I've been focusing some attention this year. And the first one is around the sections. The sections are such an important part of our international life. They are the reason the IAA started in 1895, when actuaries from around the world recognized the benefit of sharing information, sharing ideas, and sharing expertise. And that is still the case today. One of the great joys of the conference, the summit we held in Singapore, was suddenly meeting a whole group of young actuaries who'd never heard of the IAA, but suddenly came together and were enthusiastic about sharing internationally. And the importance, whether it's AI, whether it's climate change, whether it's pandemics, there are many, many issues out there which we as actuaries will benefit massively if we're able to share across boundaries. And yes, we are an association of associations, and that's really important. But if we're going to capture all of the ideas that are bubbling up from actuaries around the world, we absolutely need the sections, and we need the sections to be flourishing. And sadly, the sections have been declining in recent years. So I set Abe a challenge. I said, I want to see a vision where the sections are not 3,000 or 4,000 members, but why aren't they 30 or 40,000 out of 100,000, where individual actuaries want to connect with other actuaries around the world? And I didn't realize we're having all of those extra bits. And I'm wanting us to make that bridge between the member associations on one hand and the individual actuaries in the sections on another. I believe our forums would be able to have a much richer debate if they tapped into all of the thinking that's going on in the sections. And we need those sections to flourish. So at the JOCO meeting in Brussels on Sunday, we had a really exciting and innovative discussion around how we could radically change the sections and really give them the platform to flourish significantly within the International Actuarial Association. I'm not going to talk more about that now, but we will touch on it at the SPC later. But I just wanted to say that we've started those discussions. We've got some great ideas, and we'll be talking to you more about them. Because for me, the future has to be the sections as a vibrant part of the IAA, but they're going to have to change. We're going to have to change how we operate with the sections so that we can properly embrace the opportunity that they present for us. And then finally, I just wanted to say a few words about advice and assistance. As I said in Seoul, a key goal of the IAA is the growth of the global profession. And the way we deliver that is through the work of the Advice and Assistance Committee. And they've done great work over the years. We've continued to expand into many new countries and so on. We have drifted a little, so I've again challenged them to be more focused on key priorities. Looking at what it is that is our mission to promote the profession and to see the development of the global profession, helping with professionalism and education standards, helping those countries that don't have actuaries or don't have an actuarial society to develop that society and show what actuaries can bring. There's a huge amount of really important work, and you saw some of the things that we were thinking about in Seoul. Mohammed Amrani, who was leading the Advice and Assistance group, has sadly had to step down because of changing work commitments. So Kenji Sakine has taken over as the acting chair of that group. But I'm looking at not only encouraging them to focus more on their key priorities, but actually reviewing how we can be more effective in this area. So this is a map of our associations, and with the pins, those are the countries that we're particularly focusing on. So I'm encouraging Kenji and the different task forces, the regional task forces, to particularly focus on our priorities, our geographical priorities, as well as what it is are the things that we're trying to achieve. I'm not convinced that the structure that we've currently got is optimal for doing this. So we've started to have discussions about what we might do. And again, at the SPC, we will be exploring some ideas about how we might review our structure and review the operations, not only of advice and assistance, but potentially also membership as well, because it's so important that we as an actuarial community are working with these developing associations. And it's not just the developing association. Every association benefits from seeing new ideas that bubble up elsewhere in the world and new applications for actuarial work. So in the same way that I've challenged the sections to come up with a way to thrive and grow our profession on an individual basis, I've challenged advice and assistance to look at how we can have a step change in being more effective in this area. So there will be more discussions on both of those over the next few days. But I just wanted to give you a couple of headlines on that. Now, we've reached the top of the hour, so I have to wrap up. We could have talked about many of those topics for a lot longer, and I'm sorry we didn't get that opportunity. But I hope you got a flavor of the key issues that we've been focusing on this year. And AI is going to be around for a long time as a key issue for our profession. Some of the ideas that we need to embrace the need for change, embrace becoming AI-enhanced actuaries, every one of us in everything that we do. And with that, embrace not only the need to continually change and develop ourselves, but diversity of thought and welcoming different views is going to become so much more important if we as a profession are going to thrive in the way I'm sure we can. But with all of this change, it's up to us to be a facilitator of a change and not a blocker of change. So that's it from me. I wish you all a great meeting here in Tallinn. It's a beautiful city. Go out and explore it, as well as please join in the meetings. And I think that's it, unless Mathieu wants to give a bit of housekeeping, but thank you all very much.
So in terms of housekeeping note, do not go out and enjoy the city right now. We have 45 minutes for the lunch, which is downstairs where we had the breakfast. And then we're back here in the foyer. The coffee break and the dessert is in the foyer because we have the 25th anniversary celebrations this afternoon. So we're changing a little bit some of our scheduling that you are normally accustomed to. So 45 minutes lunch downstairs, and we're back here to have the celebration anniversary. We have a special program this afternoon, and we strongly encourage everybody to stay inside. Thank you very much.